Sports Connection. We are coming to you from Shawnee Sports Complex. That's right, we took the show on the road once again. I am your host, Tracy Abdullah, joined by my co-host, three-time NFL All-Pro Carl Lee, and Kanawha County Commissioner Ben Salango. Ben, man, it's good to have you on.
Hey, thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
Well, I know you messaged me about it, and I'm like, well, let's do this thing. Let's talk about this phenomenal deal you kind of helped put together. But I want to know, what was the brainchild? How did this thing come about? I mean, this is a beautiful complex. Samantha Carney was giving us a little tour earlier, and you got 6 fields, 4 baseball fields.
We have 6 turf fields that can be used for football, lacrosse, and soccer, and then we have 4 turf baseball fields that can be used for softball, little league, all the way up to college level. So because they have movable fences, it's either you can have it 400 dead center, then you can move it into 170 dead center. So it's adjustable.
Really?
The whole thing's adjustable. Yeah, there's no other complex that I'm aware of that has that.
That's unbelievable. Well, obviously it's a tremendous facility, and the people of this valley, I'm sure at one point or another, will be seeing it. Where did the idea come from? How did this thing come about?
Well, I'd love to take credit, but I can't. So the idea actually started with the Charleston Convention Bureau. So the travel sports is about a $10 billion to $12 billion per year industry. And so the Charleston Convention Bureau said, wait a minute, could we have travel sports here in the Kanawha Valley? And so they commissioned a study back in 2015. And the study, they came in and they studied all the properties in Kanawha County to determine where was the best location, if it was even feasible. And they determined that, yeah, we should have a travel sports complex given our location, our geographic location, and that it should be at Shawnee because it's 127 acres, it's flat, the county already owned it, and it's been, over the years, it's been a fairgrounds, it's been a racetrack, it was a golf course, when it was converted. So it's been a number of different things, and the study concluded that this was the ideal place to have it.
And there was a lot of chatter and a lot of people that were really unhappy. One, the golf course was leaving. 2 was really how it was going to function. Me being one of those, I was part of that clan of like, I'm not really sure how this is really going to work. But now seeing it, now you can understand what it really is. How did you manage to get through that, or how did you deal with that, or did you just assume it would go away, or how was that?
I think anytime there's change, there's going to be concern. There's going to be opposition. I respect that. And absolutely, encourage it. A lot of good things came out of the opposition. A lot of good things came out of the emails that I received that had concern about the complex. But the overwhelming majority was positive. People understood that this was going to be a benefit to the kids, it was going to be a benefit to the community. And so I read all the emails. I've seen the comments on Facebook. I check our Shawnee Facebook page all the time for comments. I read every one. I read every email. There were hundreds and hundreds of emails, both positive and some negative. Understandably, the golfers were upset. I too am a golfer.
I like
a terrible
this golf
golfer.
course.
I like this golf course.
It made me better than I actually was.
That's true. That's true. You could come down, you could hit the ball, even if it was 60 yards outside the fairway. You could still recover. So I hated to lose the golf course, but I understand, and I think people understand that you have to have change. You can't sit back and complain about nothing happening in the valley and keep things the same. So this was one thing that I thought could help improve the Kanawha Valley.
Right, but where did that inspiration come from?
So I've been involved in travel sports for years. Back in high school, we didn't have travel sports. You had football, you had baseball. I was a wrestler, and I played those other sports, but we didn't really travel. I mean, sometimes in the summers we'd have a wrestling tournament, but travel sports has really started to catch on over the last 10 to 15 years. And so we would travel with our kids, baseball and soccer, and people would always ask, why can't we have something like this here? We'd go to facilities in Columbus and Charlotte and other places in Ohio where there were facilities, and they say, why do we have to travel all the time? Why can't we bring them here? Because we didn't have the facility. And so one of the ideas was, when these kids kept saying, why can't we do this here? Well, it turns out we can. We just had to have the study done. We just had to have the right people behind it to make it happen.
How important was it that Shawnee was the location? I mean, because the chances of this being anywhere else is probably not likely.
Yeah, Shawnee was the perfect location because first it was owned by the county. Second, it's 127 acres of flat land. I call it West Virginia flat. I mean, it was still rolling, but it wasn't, you know, it wasn't a cliff. And so there was really no other place in Kanawha County that could have handled such a big complex. There were some spots where we could have put a 30-acre complex, and then it would have just been another complex, right? We wanted to have the premier complex in the East Coast, and we did it. There's no other complex in the East Coast that's like this. There's one up in Delaware that's close. This is the best one. And it's the best one because of the number of sports that we can have here. Some of the other complexes, because they were limited in space, they combined their soccer and their baseball fields. We didn't have to do that. We were able to put 6 turf fields with multiple use on them. You know, we lined some for football, we lined some for lacrosse, we lined some for soccer. We can use temporary lines for all the fields. If I wanted to have a monster football tournament, we can line every field with temporary lines and their turf for football. We could do the same thing for soccer. Then behind that, you've got 4 collegiate-sized baseball fields / softball fields that are turf with movable fences. So you can have, you know, typically, you know, we were growing up, you'd have to go play your Little League games at one place, then you'd go play your Babe Ruth or your 16-year-old game is a different place. Here you can play it all at one complex. And then behind that, you've got another 25 acres of flat land, grass, that you can line for whatever sport you want. So no other complex has the turf, and that's the key, because if you're going to host a tournament and you bring in thousands of people, and we just had one in November where we brought in 6,000 people, you can't bring them in and cancel it because of rain, right? So turf is the way to go, and we were fortunate we were able to do that here.
So all of these fields, baseball fields, soccer, lacrosse, they're all turf?
They're all turf. The baseball is turf on the infield, and then 3 of the fields are grass in the outfield, 1 is turf in the outfield. Ideally, over time, the other 3 baseball fields will be turf outfields as well.
How does Little League play? I mean, you said you can play all levels of baseball, softball, whatever. How do they play in the same place?
Yeah, no, it's interesting the way that the fields are developed. So it's 400 feet dead center, collegiate size, but the mounds are movable, the fences are movable. So we can bring that 400 feet dead center into 170. You can play a Little League game, you can play softball, and the bases come in. Instead of 90 feet, you can bring them into 60 feet or 45 feet.
Is this one of the only places, I've never heard of that before. I didn't know you could move fences in and out like that. Is that a new, I guess, technology for
it? It is new. It is new, and we wanted to be able to use 4 fields. It would be extremely expensive to put in 12 turf fields, right? So if you just had 4 with movable fences, then you save a lot of money, you save a lot of space. And so that was the concept behind it.
Is there any particular fields that you think will get the most use? Based on, you know, I know travel football is kind of the new thing, but I think soccer and baseball, they're pretty comfortable. They're in a comfortable space already in that. Which do you see getting the most attention? Yeah, so if you look at the trends for the last 10 years, soccer has been steadily on the rise. I mean, every year it increases. Girls soccer increases. The #1 travel sport is girls softball. Really? So I think people are going to be surprised the number of girls softball tournaments that we're able to host here. And of course the soccer is big, and it's organized and it travels well. Football is starting to travel well. You know, they've got the big tournament down in Knoxville, I believe it is. I'd love to have one of those here, and we have. I mean, we've partnered with a couple of different organizations to be able to have some football tournaments here.
All right, we're going to take a commercial break real quick. Don't go away. Listen, if you like what you see, you can check us out on YouTube, on Facebook, on Apple iTunes, and on our website at WVSportsConnection.com. Don't go away. We'll be right back.
You can do and you can say anything you want. Live your life and I'll live mine any way I want. You can have and you can take anything you want. But everything that you do, make it what you want. Anything you want, and I want. You can do and you can say anything you want. But everything that you do, make it what you want.
This isn't just a beer. It's a lager. A medium-bodied, amber-colored, one-of-a-kind beer. Made from those bold enough to brew it, for those bold enough to drink it. Tap into your inner eagle. Yingling Traditional Lager. Spread your wings.
It's football season again, and Tony the Tailor has the perfect sportswear, outerwear, and footwear. Johnny O quarter zips and sports shirts, Bill's khakis, and boots from Allen Edmonds are what the smart people are wearing this season for game time and play time. We have a great selection in our downtown Charleston store, or shop at our new downtown Huntington location. Can't make it in? Shop online at bestmastertailor.com. Tony the Tailor, West Virginia's finest men's store.
West Virginia Sports Connection is brought to you by Subway, Development of West Virginia, Greg Hammond. With promotional consideration from Sprague's Distributing Company, Yingling Golden Pilsner, Hendrickson and Long, The Riggs Corporation, Commercial Real Estate, Paul M. Corey, CPA.
Hey, welcome back to West Virginia Sports Connection. We have taken the show on the road. We're at Shawnee Sports Complex. We're talking with Kanawha County Commissioner Ben Salango. Ben, when we went out, you were kind of talking about how this new technology of moving the fences in and out. What other new things, or is there some other new technology that has enhanced this complex?
Yeah, it's really phenomenal if you go through. So the turf that we're using is the same turf that the Atlanta Falcons use at their new stadium. It's Field Turf 360, so it's top of the line turf. The lighting system is state-of-the-art Musco LED lighting. So remember the old days when you'd have to go to the power box, turn the lights on, wait them for 30 minutes? We turn our lights on with an app on our phone.
Really?
So so it saves money, there's less spill. You know, one of the things that the community brought up was we don't want lights on until midnight every night. I understand that, I appreciate that. And so the lighting that we got, actually, there's no spill, meaning we can turn our lights on, it's not gonna light up the entire neighborhood. So yeah, the technology here is pretty amazing. We're gonna have live feed, so if grandma is in New York and she wants to watch her son or her grandson play lacrosse, it's going to be able to do that on the internet. We're going to have video cameras for the fields where they can follow live.
Is that something that's going forward, or is that something that's happening now?
That's going forward.
Okay.
So that's one thing that we're doing now is getting quotes. We're going to have that installed in the next couple months.
How much tech can come into the sports world? I mean, you know, you see, you know, NFL and collegiate football, you see all these different things that's showing up. How techie is this going to get, do you think?
You know, we'll make it as techie as we have to without going overboard with it. You know, I don't want it to be whether we're so reliant upon technology that we could just have a catastrophic failure here. You don't want to have a bunch of people here, 5,000–10,000 people, and things not work. So you want to have tech just for the glitz. You want to have tech when you can use it appropriately, like the lighting system, but you don't want to have tech just for the sake of having tech. You don't want to spend unnecessary money. You don't want to have things that you don't know how to use.
Have played under lights. One of the things that I noticed every time I'm over here and it's dark, I notice the lights. I noticed there's just like a difference. And I'm not smart enough to figure out like what it is, but you can clearly tell that the lights are totally focused on the field, and it seems like it looks daylight on the field.
Yeah, it's pretty spectacular the way that this system was designed. Musco did a great job installing the lights. Hazlett has done a phenomenal job with the construction of the facility, but the lights are really special. Now they're expensive, but they'll last a long time, and it takes less energy for the LED lighting than it does the old-fashioned lights.
So if every, and you may have already had this, if every field at the same time is full, has a function going on, what is that? That's 10
fields.
10 games going on at once?
Yeah,
10 matches, games, whatever you want to call it?
You know, technically you can have more than that because some of the soccer fields are divided. A soccer field's 120 yards long and 75 yards wide, slightly bigger than a football field. You can actually play 4 youth soccer games at one time on one field. So you could have up to 24 soccer games going at one time if you were playing a youth tournament.
Where did this come from? I mean, how did this, Where did this design come from? How did whose dream was it? How did it get on paper?
So the way that it came about, after I found out that there was a study, the day after that I was appointed to the Kanawha County Commission, I asked the question, have we had a study? Turns out we had. I didn't know about it before that. It was back in February of 17. And so then I thought, I need to get people together to find out what we need. If we're going to host travel tournaments, what kind of fields do we need? So I met with several what I call stakeholders, people who are familiar with travel sports. They either run their own club or they are heavily invested in travel sports. And I met them at Adelphia. And literally, I asked them, you know, how many fields will we need to do this size tournament, and I sketched it out on a napkin. And then I gave it to an architect.
So you didn't do the actual, you did the concept.
I did the concept, and the concept was a little bit different than what the architect came. Their version was much better than mine.
when you saw the architecture for it, I mean, did it kind of match what you had in what you were seeing?
Yeah, well, first of all, it was to scale. Secondly, it was very similar, slightly different. I had the baseball fields laid out differently. To save space, they put them in a clover design, and which is incredible. Not only does it save space, but it also, you only need one press box, you only need one concession, so it saves money as well, and it's more convenient.
So when this was coming about, how did the business community respond to this? Because obviously, if this thing takes off, when it's in its, obviously you're already got a good track record under you, but if it were to take off in the planning stages before you ever got it off the ground, where did the business community come in to play?
The business community, 100% behind it. The hotels, the restaurants, those folks knew because they had seen it. They've seen when tournaments come through or whatever the event is at the Civic Center. They know that they have an uptick in business. What if you're doing that every weekend? What if you're doing it 15 or 20 weekends out of the year? They knew that hotel occupancy would go way up, restaurants would be full, those types. So they were 100% behind it. In fact, a lot of our donations, even before we broke ground, we had substantial donations from the business community to make this happen.
Was there a relationship or conversations or potential partnerships with West Virginia State and or even other local universities or high schools? Was there an outreach there to see what the roles they could play or what they would be able to do here?
Yeah, so we reached out to West Virginia State early, and they were 100% behind the project. They have now developed a women's soccer team, which starts this fall. They're going to play here at Shawnee. We wanted to make sure that they could bring their football team over. If their field was muddy, they couldn't practice. They can practice at Shawnee whenever they want. So West Virginia State's utilizing the facility. And it's a great boost for them just for marketing. If they're bringing kids in, you want to show them the facility, which is beautiful, but then you also want to bring them over here. So it
helps them in recruiting as well.
It helps them in recruiting. It helps them all the way around. Gives their kids, if they want to come over and play, we've got, the basketball courts have been remodeled. They can come over and play in those. So that's been good as far as our relationship with Washington State. The soccer community and the lacrosse community, and also football, the high schools and middle schools have taken advantage. One of the things that came out early was, wait a minute, we're going to bring in travel sports. That's all about money. What about the kids who don't have money? I wanted to make sure right from the beginning that this was open to everybody. It wasn't just about money, that this was about the community. And so we've developed usage agreements so that the middle schools, the high schools, the youth football teams, they can come in at either no cost or a very low cost and use a facility. Most of the folks most of the schools that have taken advantage didn't pay anything. They were able to get a sponsor. So for instance, some of the high school soccer teams got 48 practices, 12 to 15 games for $2,000, and a sponsor came in and paid for that. So they were able to use this facility, and it was essentially paid for. The other good thing is they can put in and run our concession stand. So if a youth football team wants to not only take part in the facility, but also make money for their organization, they can run the concession stand. And then we provide all of the drinks, we provide the food, they staff it, and they get a percentage that helps them.
I want to come right back to that. We got to take a commercial break because I find that fascinating that they can come in and do that. Let's come back to that. We'll take a quick commercial break. Don't go away.
You can do and you can say anything you want. Live your life and I'll live mine any way I want. You can have and you can take anything you want, but everything that you do, make it what you want. everything that you do, make it what you want.
This isn't just a beer. It's a lager. A medium-bodied, amber-colored, one-of-a-kind beer. Made from those bold enough to brew it, for those bold enough to drink it. Tap into your inner eagle. Yingling Traditional Lager. Spread your wings.
It's football season again, and Tony the Tailor has the perfect sportswear, outerwear, and footwear. Johnny O quarter zips and sport shirts, Bill's khakis, and boots from Allen Edmonds are what the smart people are wearing this season for game time and play time. We have a great selection in our downtown Charleston store, or shop at our new downtown Huntington location. Can't make it in? Shop online at bestmastertailor.com. Tony the Tailor, West Virginia's finest men's store.
West Virginia Sports Connection is brought to you by Subway, Development of West Virginia, Greg Hammond. With promotional consideration from Spriggs Distributing Company, Yingling Golden Pilsner, Hendrickson and Long, The Riggs Corporation, Commercial Real Estate, Paul M. Corey, CPA.
Welcome back to West Virginia Sports Connection. We are on the road today from Shawnee Sports Complex here in Institute, West Virginia. We're talking with Kanawha County Commissioner Ben Salango. Ben, when we went into the commercial break, I found it fascinating that you know, most teams aren't paying a whole lot of local teams to do something here, and then they can actually make money off concessions. How does that work?
Yeah, so we wanted to make it affordable for them to actually play here, but then we also wanted to give them an opportunity to raise funds for their organization. So they can come in and staff our concession stand, and then they get a percentage of the gross revenue from the weekend or tournament or whatever it is. Yeah, so it's a great way for them to make money.
Now that you're here, and we've talked about a lot of different pieces to this, what does it look like going ahead? What are the things that we should be looking for and people should be expecting out of the complex at this point?
So one of the things that I wanted to do from the beginning was start small, right? You have to perfect your process, whether it's a restaurant or a sports complex, whatever it is. You need to make sure that everything is running smoothly. So we did start small. We started with about a 30 to 40 team tournament. Then in November, we went to a 100 team tournament, which had about $1 million economic impact. This summer, well, starting in April, we've got a 150 team tournament that's going to bring in about $1.5 million into the community. And this summer we have two large soccer tournaments that are coming in. They're about 5 days each, going to bring in about $24 million into the community. So we have, over the last few months since we opened, tried to perfect our process. We're slowly growing in the amount of tournament size, the tournament volume that we've seen. And then this summer, we're going to be at full steam. So I'm estimating, and the experts have estimated, about $30 to $40 million a year in economic impact from this facility.
We know you've talked about the concession and utilizing volunteers to have an opportunity to generate income for their programs or whatever. When you have these type of tournaments, staffing, how do you staff that kind of tournament? Where do those people come from? Because clearly you're not having them like sit around and wait on an event. So how do you go about getting people to work? And if somebody wanted to work one of those events, where do they go? How would that happen?
Yeah, so the first few events that we did, we just did it with county employees. We let them come in, staff it. We paid them their hourly rate to come in and staff. This summer, it's going to be a little bit different because the big tournaments are coming in. And honestly, we don't have enough county employees to do it. So we're reaching out, we're going to reach out to the community, bring them in, train them, and give them essentially summer jobs. So high school kids, college kids, anybody else that wants to work it, they can come in and work and they'll be paid by the hour.
So what do we have, what do we have specifically to look forward to? How many of these tournaments are coming up? Would we recognize some of them, and would we want to get teams involved? And I know he's big in the youth sports, so what's on tap?
Yeah, so we just finished up the Ice Bowl, which is a football tournament. There were 30 teams involved in that from all over the state, some from out of state. Then we have in April, we have the Capital Classic, which is about 150 team soccer tournament. They're going to be all over from most of the East Coast, but primarily Ohio, Pennsylvania, Virginia, Kentucky, surrounding states. This summer, when we bring in the U.S. lacrosse tournament, that's going to be from all over the eastern United States. And then the U.S. soccer youth, which covers from Maine all the way down to Florida, will come over to our facility. And we're excited about it. I mean, we're looking at thousands and thousands of people, probably between 15 and 20,000 people in the area at one time, just for that tournament.
I'm going to go back to the staffing piece because that like blows my mind. Like, do you have like some idea of like the number of people that you will have to employ? Yeah. And again, these will be like essentially part-time workers, primarily weekends during the tournament time, right. Working probably long hours throughout the day and night. How many workers are you thinking that would entail?
Yeah, I would imagine just for the facility, we'll have between 40 to 45 what I will call seasonal workers during those large tournaments to make sure that the parking is running efficiently, to make sure that concessions are staffed, to make sure that people are walking around showing people where to go, make sure that trash is cleaned up, those types of things. So it's there are going to be a lot of people working here during the seasonal time. We're going to have permanent workers that will be here to mow, to make sure that everything's painted. You have to keep the facility up. It's a gym, quite frankly, and you've got to keep it looking that way. You got to make sure that everything is running perfectly, because you won't get another chance. If you screw it up, they're gone. They're going on to some other facility. So I want to make sure that and it's my job to make sure that when they come here, they have a great time, and when they leave here, they have good things to say about Shawnee Sports Complex.
I know you said, and you didn't want to take a lot of credit for this, but as somebody who's been involved in things before and watched it grow and prosper, I mean, is this kind of like your baby? Is this kind of something that you're like, wow, look what's happening? I'm
proud of it. We made some good hires that are making sure that this thing is running right. Katie Arthur is our director, Samantha Carney, she's our operations director, and they work here. They work more hours than they should. So no, I'm not going to take credit. It's easy to come up with ideas. It's difficult to execute, and so those are the folks that are making it run right, and they're doing great.
So do you have a pool of people, not to just hammer that point home in terms of getting those workers? Because that's a lot of, okay, so you've already got that pipeline set up.
No, I mean, you've got to get on that early, and you have to make sure that they're properly trained. And so, yeah, we've got that. We're working on that. We've got a lot of interns that we hire every summer. We'll use them. We'll use their friends. So yeah, there's going to be a lot of people working here for the summer, and we're starting that already.
Should somebody, if someone's interested in that, should they come here? Where should they come?
Yeah, the best thing to do is get on our website and message us, or on our Facebook page, ShawneeSports.com, or on Facebook, it's Shawnee Sports Complex. Message us and we'll get right back to you.
So anybody that wants to know anything about what's going on, somebody's sitting there, I don't know what's going on at Shawnee, so they pop up on your website or to Facebook, and they can find out whatever they want to find out, when the tournaments are going to be.
That's right. They can message us, and if either Katie or Samantha will call them back, or I'll call them back. Somebody will get back to them and make sure that they know what's going on. Most of it's on the website, and so they can see it. If they want to book a field, they can log on and book. I mean, we've had parents come out here and say, you know what, my son wants to try to play college football. He wants to be a kicker. And they'll reserve a field and come out here and just kick over and over and over, to try to practice for high school and college. So we've had people do that.
Does that happen often?
It actually does. Surprisingly, a coach will want to get his team ready for either a football tournament or a soccer tournament going away. They'll reserve the fields, come out. You can either reserve the whole field or half of a field. You can book it online. It's easy. And yeah, they'll come out and use it. We've got, three fields in use right now, and it's getting late on a Tuesday.
And it's cold out.
And it's cold out.
And
they're out.
Yeah.
And you should see this when it's warm outside. The place is packed. And I will tell you now, since our software went live, we don't allow booking for the entire year. We do it in 6-month increments. So we went live in January. what, 2.5 weeks ago, and we've already booked everything on Thursdays, Sundays, and Tuesdays.
For 6 months.
For 6 months.
And
That's essentially all day.
All day. It's booked.
That's phenomenal.
It is phenomenal. It is, but it shows you what the demand was. You know, we just had to have the supply. The demand has always been there, and so now that we have the supply, and once the baseball fields and softball fields open, I suspect those will go quickly as well.
You almost try to figure out like where did people go? Where did these people go prior to this?
They were all over, or they went out of town mostly. So we've got an adult soccer league. Who knew? I didn't know there was an adult soccer league with 500 or 600 members that are now playing here. We have ultimate frisbee. We have flag football. We have lots of soccer, lots of American football, lots of lacrosse. They're all using it. And so now they have one place where they can come. I actually came here one night. It was a Thursday night. My son plays football for GW High School. My son is in middle school, plays soccer. I was able to watch my son play a high school football game here and my son play soccer on separate fields at the same time.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Listen, I know you don't want to take credit, and we've run out of time, but man, I'm proud of you. You've done a heck of a job,
I appreciate that.
And you know, it's phenomenal. I'm astounded that you've pulled this thing off, and it's as successful as it is early on. And man, I hope it goes well.
Thank you
Listen,
so much.
man, with everything that's going on, will you come back? I'm sure we could fill up several shows with things that are going to happen here.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm honored that you had me on. You just let me know. I'll come back.
Excellent, Ben.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you, buddy.
Appreciate it,
Ben.
Thank you.
Listen, thanks for watching West Virginia Sports Connection. Again, don't forget, you can check us out on YouTube, on Facebook, on Apple iTunes, and our website at WVSportsConnection.com. And if you really like what you see, we're always looking for sponsors. Check us out on the website. Thanks, and we'll see you next time.